Hello, my name is Marquette Rock, and I'll be presenting my poster on developing and non-developing African easterly waves, a case study. African easterly waves are tropical disturbances which form over Africa and propagate westward into the Atlantic Ocean. If these waves are strong enough and are in a favorable environment, then they have the potential to form tropical cyclones. Recent studies have attempted to classify AEWs as either developing or non-developing. Developing AEWs are associated with a strong relative vorticity in the mid-troposphere. Relative vorticity is basically just the spin of the air. They are also associated with a deep moisture layer, which is favorable for deep convection. The objective of our research was to understand the differences in the environments of developing and non-developing AEWs. For our data and methods, we collected era interim data, which is reanalysis data of the European model, and we looked at a September 1989 AEW, which formed Tropical Storm Iris, as well as a September 2003 AEW, which formed TD14. We then ran the weather research and forecasting model, known as WRF, at 27-kilometer resolution, and we plotted average and anomaly plots of several different variables. Anomaly plots are on a short time scale so that we can see the environment at that specific time. They were created by subtracting the 2 days before and 2 days after from the time being plotted. For our results in figure 1, we have the relative vorticity anomaly at 600 hectopascals. On the left, we have the developing 1989 AEW, and on the right, we have the non-developing 2003 AEW. Stronger relative vorticity anomalies are the dark red, and as you can see, as the wave crosses the west coast of Africa, in both cases, we have very strong vorticity. This suggests that both AEWs had similar intensities. However, one formed a tropical storm and one did not. So we want to further investigate why that happened. So next we're going to look at the geopotential heights and the horizontal winds at 600 hectopascals. The geopotential heights are shaded, and the reds and oranges represent higher heights, while the greens and blues represent lower heights. Again, we have the developing 1989 AEW right here on the left, and the non-developing 2003 AEW on the right. We can see as the wave crosses the African coast up here, that it is associated with lower geopotential heights, which is consistent with a low pressure system. As we move down, 4 days later, it propagated westward into the Atlantic, and we can see it further lowered its height. In the non-developing case, we unfortunately cannot see our AEW that well. WRF, unfortunately, does not simulate small storms very well, just like many other numerical weather models also have issues simulating small storms. But in the bottom plot here, 4 days after the AEW crosses, we can kind of see a circulation right around here with our northerly winds, and we can actually further see that in the anomaly plots. So this is geopotential height and horizontal winds anomalies at 600 hectopascals. This is 4 days after the AEW crosses the west coast. So right here, we can see the dark blues represent lower than usual geopotential heights. And this is where our AEW that will eventually form Tropical Storm Iris is. And in our non-developing, we can see the same characteristics really as we saw in developing. We have very low anomalous heights right where our circulation seemed to be, again, in the non-developing. So looking at the relative vorticity and the geopotential height, we can see both AEWs had similar intensities, but one formed tropical storm and one did not. So now we're going to look at the environments that they entered. So we have relative humidity down here at 850 hectopascals. Again, we have developing on the left and non-developing on the right. As you can see, as the AEW crosses the west coast and propagates westward, it remains in a relatively moist area for both cases. However, when we look at the 600 hectopascal plots, we can see in the developing, it also remains in a relatively moist area, both as it crosses and 4 days later. But in the non-developing, we have this dry air coming down 4 days later, which ultimately ends up weakening the AEW and hinders it from intensifying anymore, which is why it was non-developing. So in conclusion, we looked at the relative vorticity and geopotential heights, and both developing and non-developing, and we determined that both waves had similar intensities. So that we further looked at the relative humidities both at 850 and 600 hectopascals. determine why the developing AEW formed Tropical Storm Iris and why the non-developing AEW only formed TV14. So we determined that because of the dry air at 600 hectopascals, the non-developing AEW was hindered from intensifying anymore. I'd like to thank the folks at Albany and NCANT for all their help on this project.